Hello, Miami. This is 305 Sports Now, your home podcast and channel for all things Miami sports related. I am Will, and just as I promised, I am bringing today my thoughts and my perspectives on what was a very tough and difficult loss that the Miami Dolphins faced against the LA Chargers last night. It was basically now the Dolphins were 0-2 in their West Coast road trip and have to face a very which I think is an unfortunate situation that the league put the Dolphins in when they have to travel to Buffalo on Saturday night and play the Buffalo Bills. First of all, after coming from a West Coast road trip, and then on top of that, they have to play the Bills, in very, very, very cold temperatures. It's part of the league. I just don't like the fact that they made it a night game and on a Saturday versus just making it a full-blown Sunday game where Dolphins could have an extra day of recovery as well from basically their road trip, because traveling from east to west is not exactly the easiest thing in the world. But I will say this. There is a cause for concern, as I felt the Miami Dolphins lost against the 49ers, but they left some plays out on the field, some drops, some missed throws by Tua, the pass rush that came, with the intensity that was the San Francisco 49ers. That really wasn't the case against the Chargers. I mean, the Miami Dolphins should have defeated the LA Chargers, losing by a score of 23-17, where Justin Herbert just lit them up. I mean, Justin Herbert was the better quarterback, this past evening, and Tua just looked like, well, what a lot of people felt was old Tua, as for the second straight game in a row, Tua seems inaccurate, befuddled, and disheveled as a football team, and the offense was unable to muster up points and unable to muster up efficiency. Tua went 10 for 28 to only 2 completions, in the first half. Most of his completions in the second half were pretty much towards the end of the game. Goes 10 for 28, 145 yards passing, 1 touchdown. Basically, most of his 145 yards came from a long pass play over to Tyreek Hill that lasted about 60 yards, in which the defender fell, and Tyreek did all the rest. Again, it's another non-existent running game. Don't let the stats fool you. The 92 yards rushing was actually less, as Tua pretty much led his team in terms of running the football with not lead his team, because Mostert did get 37 yards off of that. But in terms of yards per carry, once the pocket broke down, Tua did take off and did help his team, in that aspect. The Dolphin defense did adjust better in the second half, but once again, the Miami Dolphin defense does struggle once again on the road, as most of Justin Herbert's best performances were in the first half, in which he was able to basically drive on this team. Although the pass rush was there, in particular, Justin was able to roll himself out, get quick passes, out of his hands, and the Dolphins' zone coverage at the time was basically ineffective, as the receivers were able to find holes in the zone, and Justin Herbert was able to deliver it with magnificent accuracy. Now, no matter what we think, these two guys will always be forever linked as far as it goes, as who should have the Dolphins picked first versus Tua versus Herbert. This past year, under Mike McDaniel's new system, it has been seen the Dolphins may have made the right decision, as they were 8-0 when Tua started and finished games. But as of right now, that system or that choice is starting to come into question, as now, from my perspective, the Miami Dolphins offensively have been figured out, by the 49ers and now the Chargers. The 49ers, I get. The 49ers are a world beater on defense, but the Chargers are not, especially not having Bosa play and Derwin James not in there either. I'm sorry, they should have feasted off the Chargers defense, and Miami did not. They figured out how to take the middle of the field out, which has been the bread and butter of the Miami Dolphins this whole season. And really, when you think about it, McDaniel and Tua had no answers for that when it came to the Chargers defense. And that led to basically a very pedestrian looking offense that looked lost many times out on the football field over in LA, and the crowd was pretty much mostly on the Dolphins side. LA's residents have not embraced the Chargers, all right, as their team, at least not yet. We'll see what happens later on in the future. So, I mean, I just think that, as of right now, the Miami Dolphins have to find a way to get that running game going, because now they lose 2, on the road in the West Coast, and now they have to travel to Buffalo in frigid weather. It's not looking good. The Miami Dolphins could fall further and further behind in the playoff race if they don't get something together. I don't know the extent of Wilson's injury. I know it was a hip injury. Last night he had to leave the game. Moser cannot carry that team, and Ahmed cannot carry the team either. So we'll see exactly what kind of adjustments Mike McDaniel makes. On a lighter note, the defensive pass rush I felt was very good. Herbert could have easily been sacked, multiple times in the game outside of 4. He was sacked 4 times. Should have been a 5-sack game, as we know that, Jalen Roberts unfortunately was robbed of another sack, which is a very unfortunate roughing the passer call, that he received, unfortunately. Jalen Phillips was credited with 1 sack, should have been 2, could have had actually 3 or 4 in the game, had about 100 people in the audience that he himself paid for to be there. And I just can't believe the officials would really call such a ridiculous aspect of that. We're going to have to get to a time where quarterbacks are going to have to wear flags, because how in the blue hell, when you're sacking a guy, and by the way, Justin Herbert is not a small guy. He's not as big as Josh Allen, but he's no easy guy to take down. All right, the guy's a very mobile quarterback. He's very athletic. You have to make sure that he goes down, and Jalen Phillips did nothing wrong. As a matter of fact, as he was going down, he actually lifted his shoulders, so he didn't put all his weight on Herbert. And yet the referee in a late call calls the 15-yard penalty on the Dolphins. That play would have gotten the Dolphins off the field. That's an extra couple possessions the Dolphins lost because of the incompetence of these referees. These referees, I'm not blaming them for the loss. The Dolphins lost the game on their own, but these referees were absolute idiots. They absolutely were stupid, all right? And the reason why I say they were stupid, because it wasn't just the roughing the passer call. They blew about 3 false starts that I saw yesterday's game. You can't officiate like that. You have to be consistent, all right? You have to be consistent, and you cannot, control a defender's body when they're trying to sack quarterback and they land on the guy. These are grown men that knew the risk of playing football. It's a violent game. Listen, I'm glad that Tom Brady's been playing since World War II, all right? But this is ridiculous. And now, I mean, if the quarterback releases the ball, you're trying to get a sack, you tackle his legs, it's another 15-yarder. You can't put too much weight on a quarterback as a 15-yarder. You might as well put flags on these guys. Just put flags. Put flags. And referees, I'm sorry, you have to have common sense. All right, you have to have common sense. Common sense should tell you that there was no malicious intent from Jalen Phillips. All right, there was no malicious intent from Jalen Phillips. The league has to revisit that rule. At the end of the season, the league has to revisit that rule. There's too many times this season that multiple teams have been burned with great defensive calls, with great defensive sacks. All right. And because of the fact that they're trying to protect the quarterback, because that's the moneymaker of the NFL, is quarterback play, they're hurting teams. And that's just not right. It's a violent sport. It's the reason why we like the sport, because it's our modern day gladiator sport, team sport, and it's what we like to watch. This is not football. It's not football. Okay? You might as well put flags on these guys. Might as well put flags on these guys. And I'm sorry, the Miami Dolphins have to win against Buffalo as well, because if not, the playoff chances keep dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. The Miami Dolphins have 8 wins last year. They finished last year, I think, with 9. The Miami Dolphins, then after that, it's the Packers. Then they play the Jets. Then they play the Patriots. It's gonna be very hard. And the AFC is very good this year. Okay, it's very good this year. Okay, listen, guys, that's it for me. Straight to the point, like usual. Hope you like what you heard. If you like what you heard, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. 305 Sports Now. Once again, I am Will. Stay safe. God bless. See you soon. And go Dolphins and go Canes. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.